All right, what is up, gentlemen? Today is what day is it? Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, and today is an A day. And you guys have virtual class today because all the teachers are getting vaccinated for the second time. So, yeah, enjoy your virtual day. We get to start the book of John today. Hope you guys submitted your review questions to Google Classroom. Those will be out of 5 points. So let's go ahead and get started with a itinerary of what we're doing. We're going to review a little bit. We're going to talk about John, and then your homework is to read John, and that's John 2, 3, 4, and 6. And if you were in class, we would have watched a nice, cool video clip, and that would have taken up quite a bit of the class. But it's going to be pretty quick. Just watch this Edpuzzle and answer some questions along the way. Take good notes because a lot of this stuff is very good test information, right? So let's get to it. John. We know a little bit about John based on what we've talked about so far. We know that John is one of the disciples, one of the original 12 disciples of Jesus. John was originally a fisherman. He and his brother were out fishing when all of a sudden Jesus came up and was like, "Yo, join my crew." Okay, and they dropped their nets and they followed him, right? So John's got an older brother named James, right? So James and John are both the sons of thunder, is what Jesus calls them, and them and Peter are kind of like those three closest friends that we talked about before that Jesus has, that he brings to the Transfiguration, for example. So John is in the inmost circle, I would say, of Jesus. And a lot of church tradition tells us that John may have been very young when he was a disciple, possibly even like 16 years old. So maybe we could think of him as like a protege or a young Padawan, maybe, if you will, to Jesus as the Jedi Master, perhaps. So yeah, they were referred to as the Sons of Thunder. John was one of the only people present at the crucifixion. It was John, Mary, Jesus' mother, Mary Magdalene, and then another woman named Selma. So John was there. He was there at the crucifixion, and actually, as Jesus was dying, Jesus looked at John and Mary, and he said, "Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." So for the rest of his life, John actually took care of Mary, and they traveled together. So they moved after the death and resurrection and ascension of Christ. After preaching the gospel for a long time, they ended up in Ephesus, which is in Turkey. So that's like, if you guys don't know where Turkey is where Europe kind of transfers over to the Middle East, right? So it's a really important kind of crossroads area for culture. So that's a little bit of background information about John. Let's talk about his actual gospel, because he wrote much later than all the other gospel writers. A lot of people think that his gospel was not written until the late 80s or early 90s. So this is maybe like a full, some people say 40 years maybe. Maybe not 40 years. Let's go with like 25 or 30 years after the other gospel writers. And, John would have been very old at this point writing his gospel. And a lot of our other, early church fathers, there's documents of them saying, after much pleading, John was convinced to write down his gospel. So, we can maybe think of John as a really old guy, right, with all this deep spiritual wisdom. And people are like, we got to get your story down. We got to get your story down, especially before he dies. And that's kind of why it's very deeply theological. John's audience, right, is people who are unclear about who Christ is. Now, this could be anybody, right? This could be, early Christians. This could be Jews. This could be Gentiles, right? People he's trying to convert, or also people who are already converted, but maybe it might be falling off into heretical nonsense. People who might have believed in Christianity, but maybe they're thinking to themselves, was Jesus really God? And John is there to write the gospel saying, yes, he is. Okay? And that's part of why his writing style is so different. You know, he has these really long-winded explanations, theological explanations of why Christ was doing the things he was doing. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit more background information about John's audience. And I have this map here. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but maybe my little tab here is blocking the view. But there's this map I put up here of kind of the area of Judea, right? So we have this Sea of Galilee. I'll make it with my hands here. Sea of Galilee is like right here, and Jerusalem is right there, okay? And so this is what I want you guys to refer to as like the city slickers, right? These are the people who are from like the cultural area of all of the area, of Israel. Okay, these are the people who have been there for a while, and they have their defined culture. Jesus of Nazareth, right, is from all the way up there, which is only like, I think 60 miles or something like that. But it's very much more rural up there and kind of country folk. And the people from the Jerusalem area, right, really don't like country folk very much, okay? And Jesus is from an area called Nazareth, which is really close to like where a lot of kind of hick people live. You could say, call them hick people, right? But Samaria, right? And we're going to be talking a lot about Samaria in this unit. It's very important. Jesus is trying to regather all the tribes of Israel. And this includes the northern kingdom, right? When the kingdom split after Solomon's reign, okay, went to north and south. The southern kingdom, they lasted for a lot longer than the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom was conquered by the Assyrians in 722, right? And they were kind of like basically broken up when they were conquered and married off, into different, essentially, other kingdoms. And so these people, the northern kingdom, who live up there above Judea, eventually just got referred to as Samaritans, right? All the people who had lost the faith, essentially. And then all those in the southern kingdom, people in Judea, remember, those are the ones who didn't get conquered until 587 during the Babylonian exile. All right, so that's just a little bit of background information about Samaria. Okay, a couple unique features of John. He's represented by an eagle. Remember, aloe, A-L-O-E, right? Angel, lion, ox, eagle. John's represented by an eagle. And then another unique feature of John is that he has a lot of symbolic figures. These are people that when Jesus is speaking to this one person, really it's kind of indicative of the entire group of those people. So if he's talking to a Samaritan woman, right, it's really like he's talking to all Samaritans. Or if he's talking to a Pharisee, it's like he's talking to all Pharisees. And last unique feature of John is that he's got some really memorable quotes, one of which is John 3:16, which you can see Mr. Tebow here. He's got it on his eye black there. So pretty cool. All right. Some unique stories in John. These are stories that are only in John. Okay. The wedding at Cana, the woman at the well, the Good Samaritan, the raising of Lazarus, the washing of the feet. Right. These are all things that are unique to John's gospel. They're not in the other ones. So pretty cool. All right. Let's get started with some pretty deep stuff here. This is the prologue of John. So if you remember, Matthew started his gospel with, a genealogy, a really, really, really long genealogy going all the way back to, I believe it was, I think it was Abraham that he went all the way back to. Whereas, Mark, or Luke did his genealogy all the way back to Adam, right? But Luke started his gospel with John the Baptist stuff anyways. So all these gospel writers kind of start their gospel with different kind of ways of beginning. And John's is very unique. John starts his with this super theological kind of testimony. And he goes all the way back to the beginning, right? Before Adam, before, the beginning of the universe, right? He wants to say, when was Jesus really there? And he says it was in the beginning with God, right? He says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, who is the Word referring to here? Jesus. Remember, he's the incarnate Word. Okay? So that's what John is kind of getting at here. Right? The Word has always been with God. And one way of thinking about this is if I tell you to think about, let's say, a food in your head, right? So you're thinking about chicken, okay? And chicken is, right, it's in your head, okay, you're thinking about saying it, right, but you haven't said it yet. But it's still there, right? Even though it hasn't been spoken, it's still there. So the idea is there, right? The word is there as well, just has not been given breath. And this is actually a way we can think about the Trinity, right? The idea might be God, right? The word is Christ, and the breath is the Holy Spirit, right? So the word is there, right? And the capacity to use the word through the breath, it's there. It's all there. It's not like one of them was before the other, okay? It's all there, right? That's why we say that Christ is co-eternal with the Father, right? And consubstantial. They're different persons, but the same substance. They're all God, okay? It says also that all things came to be through him. This is also referring to Christ, right? It says God spoke the world, the universe into existence, right? It's God's creative power, right, that ends up, starting the universe. And this is how we view Christ, right? Christ is the word that God spoke that gave life to everything, right? He says, what came to be through him was life, and this life was the light of the human race. He goes on and on and on. The other really important part of this passage here is this ending, okay? It says, from his fullness we have all received grace in place of grace. Because while the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only Son, God, who is at the Father's side, has revealed him. So what does this mean? This means, right, that Christ's mission is twofold, right? And we've already talked about the first one quite a bit, right, which is to save us from sin and death. Okay, that's what God was trying to do in the Old Testament. And how is God doing this in the Bible? How is God trying to save us? Is he just like doing it? No. Okay, he's leaving it up to us, right? He reveals himself to us, and then we have the option of saying yes to that or saying no to that. And so when he has his fullest revelation, it's through who? Christ, right? First it was the law and the prophets, and the fullness of those is Christ. And so if we fully accept his revelation, his fullest revelation, Christ, then we can be saved from sin and death. And then Christ's second purpose is also stated there at the end, where it is, to reveal God, right? The only Son, God, who's at the Father's side, has revealed him, right? It's revelation, okay? Everything that God has done in the Old Testament, everything that God does through Christ is revelation. So, twofold purpose, right? And they're kind of connected. Like, God reveals himself, and if we believe in that revelation, right, then it saves us from sin and death. All right. This is where we would have watched the video, but you guys are unfortunately not here in class today, so very sad. But I can't wait to see you guys again on Friday. We do have school on Friday, right? Yeah. So we'll talk about John 2, 3, 4, and 6 on Friday. Make sure you read it. Be ready for a quiz. I think it's going to be a pretty spicy quiz. So just make sure you get it done. All right, we'll see you guys later. Have a great virtual day. Bye-bye.